This is the Bears Barroom Radio Network. The following program is recorded live and intended for all audiences.
Radio is scripted now. We just come up with it. We don't use computers. We don't rehearse. We're going to talk about this next. We're going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the Bulls. And then we're going to have Brad Biggs on. And then we're going to have all this. No. If you don't know what you're going to talk about in the top of your head before a show, you shouldn't be in the business. I don't know what you got. I feel like Vince Vaughn in a couple's retreat. The Sharks are circling. Old school, baby!
You're listening to the Mike North Advantage, and it begins right now.
That's right. The Mike North Advantage starts right now. I am Aldo Gandia, Mike's wingman, and yes, Mike has brought on another great guest for us. I will let Mike do the introduction, but let me introduce him first. Mike North, how are you, my friend?
Oh, it's great to talk to you, Aldo, as always, buddy. We'll be talking after I'm done with Tommy. You'll have a few questions for Tommy, plus the chat board, folks. So, you know what? It's going to be a lot of fun today. We've had everybody from Mike Ditka to Hawk Harrelson to Cole Kmet, the new tight end, a ton of great people. But this guy's one of my favorites because we ended up working together. We did a couple of years of arena football. I had the time of my life with him, one of the class guys I've ever met in sports. Great guy. We'll talk to him about The Last Dance. We'll talk to him about a lot of other things, but also product of East Lyton High School for all you folks in Franklin Park, Illinois. A high school All-American, what a run he had. And then the Missouri all-time blocks leader. Went to France, played ball in New Zealand, got to see the world. Then he became the Bulls announcer. Pretty good run. We're pleased to have on my buddy Tommy Dore. What's up, Tom?
Mikey, it is so good to talk to you. And, as I texted this morning, we could talk cab drivers. We could talk cheap champagne on an American Air or United Airlines flight. Man, we had a blast.
We did. And, we'd always talk about different things. But I guess we should just start right here. You grew up in Northlake, right? Right off 294. Am I right?
Exactly. I was Grandin Wolf, basically. Westdale baseball, St. John Vianney. I was, there was a newspaper story. I was 6'7" and 140 pounds when I was in 8th grade. And that between 7th and 8th grade, I grew 7 inches in about 5 weeks.
Wow.
And I ate everything in sight. Absolutely. If it was nailed down, I was trying to pull it off the floor and eat that too. But can you imagine? Hey, Mikey, I had a blast. I've had a great time with basketball and baseball and arena football, the whole bit.
I got to ask you about being that tall. Were you the subject of, people making fun of you, stuff like that? Because I remember there was a kid named Jimmy Moran, great guy, but he was about 6'6" in 8th grade. And it wasn't like, people made fun of him, but there was whispers and stuff like that. Did you ever have that situation? Or because even in high school where you were an All-American, you were a big guy on campus?
Well, and there was always the one that wants to beat up the big guy. There were always referees that wanted to stick it to the 7-footer. And you just roll with it. Again, Mikey, I was painfully skinny, and there wasn't much I could do to defend myself. I just couldn't do it. Physically, there was just no way. But you roll with the punches and take the good with the bad.
Did you think you were NBA caliber? Do players know they're NBA caliber? Or did you know, basically, you know what, I hope to make some money off this, maybe overseas? I mean, what was your take on your career? Because you did have a great career at Missouri. You made the playoffs a couple times, everything else. But do you know that you're good enough for the NBA at the point, or stubbornly you say, maybe I'm a notch below?
Technical difficulties.
I was going to be an NBA star. I was going to kick everybody's ass. But then I got to college and I realized that my body, my frame, just wasn't meant for that game. I didn't have that lower body strength to be able to hold people. You know, I played against Moses Malone. I played against Bill Cartwright. I played against a lot of the great players. And in high school, I could do that. But as their bodies changed, especially lower body strength, by the time I got to like my junior year, I realized there was no way. I couldn't do what other centers could do. I just didn't have that strength, and I was never going to have it. I could run 10 million stadium steps and do squats till the cows came home. My body wasn't going to change. So I went overseas, and I had a blast. God, the year in France. Oh, my God, Mikey.
How's New Zealand? I haven't hit New Zealand yet. How's New Zealand?
Mikey, New Zealand is just gorgeous. I became their kind of basketball ambassador, I guess.
Nice.
And so I'd go all over the country.
You were there to New
Kind
Zealand,
but not really. I was their TV announcer, and I was also I'd go around and I'd teach clinics at different parts of the country. I got to go out in the middle of the fjords. I got to go up north. I got to go down south. I got to go places where most people wouldn't go, little tiny towns. They'd say, hey, we really want them to come. And Basketball New Zealand would say, all right, so you're going to Nelson, which is one of the furthest south cities in the world, or you're going here, you're going there. And I got to go and drive. You know, you'd come around a corner and there's 500 sheep in the middle of the road, and you got to slam on the brakes because the sheep are in the middle of the road. That's what New Zealand was like back then. I don't know if it still is. We're going to go back in January in a year. But, Mikey, it was so much fun because these people wanted to learn. God, they wanted to learn. And that made it great.
I'll tell you what, Tommy, then you get, you were doing some announcing, you start doing some college games, stuff like that. How about the Bulls job? You were a Bull fan growing up, no doubt. So now you get the Bulls job. How'd that come about?
There were three known candidates, and there's this one mystery candidate. And so every once in a while, my mom would get something. She'd read something in the Trib, and it'd say, the mystery candidate does this or has this or whatever. And so I get a call. Kevin Harlan's a buddy of mine, Kevin with CBS TV.
Sure.
And Kevin and I were in Kansas City at the time. I took his job when he left to go, I forget where Kevin was going. But then he wanted to interview for the Bulls job, and I'd done 5, 6, 7 games on radio the year before, kind of as the backup guy. GN would not allow a simulcast, and so when games were on Channel 9, they need a radio crew. Well, John Rooney was that guy with the White Sox until he had to go to spring training. So he called me and he said, hey, look, send me a tape. They're looking for somebody, and, I'll give you a shot. So I sent him a tape. He took it in for me, and 2 weeks later, I get a call from the Bulls, from Steve Shanwald. And Stevie says, hey, well, this is what, I've listened to your tape. You'll fit in perfectly. And so I go do the games. I did 5, 6, like I said, 5, 6, 7. And the first game was at Detroit, the year the Bulls beat them for the playoffs. And so I'm ready to get on the bus, and Michael Jordan comes up, puts his arm around me, say, who are you? What are you doing? Sat right behind me with a great conversation, and we're still good friends to this day. Anyway, so the season ends, and I'm thinking I'm up for the radio job. So Kevin calls me, and he says, hey, look, I'm up for this TV job. And I knew he was. And he said, I heard that they really liked you with the radio. I want to use you as a reference. And I said, absolutely. He said, all right, the guy's name's John Toohey. He's at Sports Channel Chicago. I'm going to interview on this day. Yeah, great guy, super guy.
Really good guy, really good guy.
Yeah. So I'm home that Tuesday morning. The phone rings. My wife gets it. She says, it's John, somebody from somewhere. Okay. I pick up the phone. It's John Toohey. I didn't let him say anything. I said, John, let me tell you about Kevin, what a great person he is, how positive he is, on and on and on. And John starts laughing, and I said, okay, I'll bite. What did I miss? And he says, well, Kevin just left, and he's not going to get the job.
Ooh.
So there's this long pause, and, the wheels are turning, but not very quickly in the head. I'm the first to admit that.
Uh-huh.
So I say, John, why are you calling me? Well, we wonder if you'd like to apply for the job. I was this mystery fourth candidate. Mm-hmm. So, of course, this is a dream job. I get to go out, like you said, I grew up rooting for the Bulls. Artis Gilmore and Bob Love and Chet Walker and Norm and Jerry. And, This was beyond a dream, beyond any dream I could have ever had, just being interviewed. So I go into the interview, and they start to talk, and I said, hold on. Jim Corno, John Tooley, all those guys start to talk to me. And they're showing me around, and I said, guys, I really, and I just like I'm doing right now, I really hesitated on the right words. I said, I want to make a couple things clear. I don't know jack about the NBA. I'm a college guy, and I don't know anything about TV. I'm a radio guy. If you guys are okay with that, I'm okay to keep going, but I want you to know who I am. If you're looking for the polished guy because you've got the greatest product in the world, you've got what nobody else has. I understand if you'd want to hire somebody with a lot more experience. I don't have that, but this is who I am. This is what I do bring. And about a year later, I went in and talked about a new contract with Jim Corno, and he said, that's the most honest anyone has ever been in an interview. And he said, that's one of the big reasons I wanted you. And he and I had such a good relationship for my 17 years there. Couldn't have asked for a better guy.
Okay, so then you get, let's just skip over now to this Last Dance stuff. You were there for the whole thing. We were down there. I'd see you down there. You and Red, the whole ball wax. Red had the restaurant going. Everything was it was bedlam. It was Barnum and Bailey. Okay. You said you're good friends with Michael, no doubt, and I love Michael too. Everybody loves Michael. You guys used to fly in the same plane. Was that the deal for most of the trips?
Yeah. If I was doing the whole thing, if Wayne came in for Channel 9, I might fly home or I might meet them somewhere for a long trip. But yeah, I was on the plane. I'd sit basically right across from Michael. On the bus, I'd either sit right across from him, right in front of him, or across, but he was one more behind. We were always somewhere close. And we talk about kids and basketball, but we talk politics. We talk about his house, as they were building a new house.
Sure.
Just normal coworker, buddies talk,
Wow, that's good. And I saw, we saw you in some of the clips and stuff like that, which was good, Tom. I thought that it would have been a different type, and I had told Aldo this, that beforehand. I said, and I don't know how you feel about it, I said, we're going to hear about 80% of the stories we know already in Chicago from the national people and from the predictable people in Chicago. I could just name them off the top of my head, and the associates of ESPN. I thought they should have brought in more of the Chicago people, but that was up to Michael. First of all, what did you think of The Last Dance and that you lived it? I knew at that time, we'll never see this again. Did you get that? Did you know that same thing?
Oh, yeah. We're driving up. There's so many stories, Mikey, that come to mind. But we're driving up to Milwaukee for that 70th win, and Johnny looks at me, and Neil Funk was in there with, I forget who the radio guy at the time was. Might have been Tommy Borwinkle. Well, we're driving up to Milwaukee, and Johnny turns to me and he says, what are you going to say if they win tonight? And I said, well, Bulls win. And he said, no. You need to have something. You need to have. And I said, John, I got it. I'm ready. And so the 70 wins has become a reality in the NBA. It was nothing fancy. It was just, I didn't lose a lot of sleep over it. Let's go there. But there were so many great times. We're going to go fishing in L.A. one time. And so Michael's like, oh, what are you going to fish for? Where are you going? I said, come with us. He said, oh, no. I'm not getting on a boat. I want to hear all about the fish stories. I want to see all the pictures. I want to hear you guys busting each other, but I'm not getting on a boat. And so there are a few of us that were talking after this was all over and reading that his new wife got him to not only get on a boat, to buy a boat. And,
wow.
And that's,
did he not know how to swim, probably?
No, he didn't. He'd never learned.
Okay.
They didn't learn in high school. You know, in high school, you have the same thing. We had to swim naked.
The man has a flaw. He can't swim.
Unbelievable. But you know, so it was things like that, and the people, and the one thing when it all ended, I felt like when it ended, and you and I talked about this doing arena football. When everybody left, I mean, Bill Wennington, Ron Harper, a couple guys stayed, Randy Brown. There were guys that stayed, but almost all my buddies left. And that's what, you know what it felt like? It felt like your neighborhood where you grew up and all your buddies and all your guys, almost all of them one day moved away. And you still had a couple guys, but almost all your buddies left. And that's what it felt.
I was going to ask you about that because, okay, you think you're going to last somewhere forever. I was at the one place for 17 years. I was at another place for, you think you're going to last at one place
you
forever.
Think your family.
But that doesn't, you had a good deal going for 17 years. Were you surprised when you were let go?
I was. There was some talk. Jimmy Durham talked to me about it. The late great Jimmy JD talked to me a little bit about it, and about how, his run at 17 years, and he wanted a little more money, but he thought they could have worked it out anyway. But I
remember that.
Surprised.
That was public, man.
Yeah, exactly. I was a little surprised, but I remember I started getting some inklings, and I think there were some people emailing management that wanted the job,
really?
And I think that had something to do with it too.
You mean other people, while you were working there, maybe knew something that maybe you weren't going to come back, maybe they knew somebody in upper management, so they were campaigning.
Not that I wasn't coming back, but campaigning. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know that.
Wow. Hurtful? Because we know
it's
a lot in business, Tom. You know that. I mean, we're not hiding.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You're hired to be fired, just like a coach.
But you really, at times, you're surprised about certain things that you hear. You can't believe everything that you hear. But when you do hear things and then you're concrete about the situation, it sort of like befuddles you because you don't expect something like that, right?
I had a couple other people around the NBA call me and say, hey, look, this is going on. And I thought, really? When someone goes after your job.
Did they get the job?
No, I'm not going that far. But
okay.
But you just think, Mikey. Really?
Oh,
you're going to stab somebody in the back? Yeah.
Aldo's a TV guy from back in the day, producer, right, Eld? You're not telling us anything we don't know.
Oh, absolutely. It's a tough racket, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's a rough racket, man.
You get respect for the people, Mikey, that lasted for years and years. They obviously know how to play first of all, you got to be really talented to do anything like that. And I know it. To do what you did, you got to work your ass off. You've got to be really talented, and everybody's got to like you. So the people that can stay in this business for 30 or 35 years, you get a lot of respect for. Not only are they really
get-along gang, I call them. The get-along gang.
Exactly.
Get your jackets. Get-along gang on the back with the name on the front.
But they also know how to play the political game.
Oh, absolutely. Play the game. The get-along gang, you can play the game.
Exactly.
Right?
And I never figured that part out. Never.
No.
I didn't understand that part at all.
Well, just when things were going well for you, you find out you're pairing with me with arena football. And I mean, things were smooth, and then all of a sudden you find this out. What was your first reaction, my friend?
You and I'd worked together, done a couple talk shows together.
Yeah, we did.
And I knew the first thing I thought was, we're probably going to laugh through most of the game.
That's what
at
we
each
did.
other, at the game, at the fans. We'd make fun of each other all day long, and we would, there's never going to be hard feelings. It's about having fun, and I knew, the one thing I knew was that our broadcasts were going to be really entertaining.
We had pretty good numbers, too.
Absolutely. And so, Mikey, my thought initially was that, we've got to explain the game. And I talked to you about that. We've got to teach the game. But we've got to have fun. And we did. And that, to me, the guy that's sitting home that can't go to the game or is driving and couldn't go to the game or goes to like 2 games. That's all he can afford. 2 games a year, something like that. They're going to be the people that we're going to talk to. And they want to have fun. They want to be entertained.
Worst hangover I ever had, Fort Lauderdale. Worst hangover I ever had. I went all night. The guy kept the bar open till like 5 in the morning. We had to get on the bus at like 11:30 or something. The air conditioner was a window unit. It looked like the motel from like Cape Fear. You know what I mean?
Oh.
And I had, my God, and we did, but we had the time of our lives. We had fun, and then Oklahoma City. We went to Oklahoma City. I'll never forget our first broadcast. And this was before the Seattle Supersonics came, or it come over there. So I think we were told if we didn't stop bad rapping Oklahoma City, they were going to take us off the air. And I said, this is a one-horse town. I can't find a bar,
We're at halftime, and somebody comes over and threatens us. So I don't know if it was a PR guy or assistant GM or who the hell it was. And I just looked at him like, are you out of your mind?
That's what we told
You're going to pull the
plug.
Yeah, exactly. Get the hell away from us.
They almost threw us off the air. I can't imagine. I says, listen, they still teach Indian language in Oklahoma City. We were talking about here. I go, this is a one-horse town. Man, at halftime, the head of the station came down. It was crazy, man. We had some fun, boy. And then we got to the Staples Center. Was it the Staples Center? Yeah.
Sabu, your guy Sabu.
The guy looked just like the guy in the movies, Jungle Book. Sabu, remember him? Guy looked just like him.
This is... Aldo, people will not ever believe this cab driver and what he did and what he said. Oh my God.
Well, I go, look, please. And I start calling him because he looked just like him. And he goes, I know who it is. I know who it is. It was crazy. We had some fun. Tommy, we got Aldo here with his array of questions, and then we got some chat board questions for our buddy Tom Dore. Aldo?
Hey, great interview, guys, and it's great listening to those stories. And I'm just jealous. You kept the bar open to 5 a.m., huh?
My God, we're in Fort Lauderdale, and it was the hottest day of the year there. It was like 100 degrees. Tom was fresh as a kitten. I was like, are you kidding me? And, because Tom always got his 8 hours, right, Tom?
Oh, absolutely. We go out to lunch that day.
Yeah,
we went out to lunch that day. We walked. No, we got a cab. We got a cab to wherever we were going. We couldn't get a cab on the way back. So we're walking 1.5 miles, 2 miles, whatever it is.
That was Orlando.
In the middle, it was Orlando. In the middle of the walk, it starts to pour. Not rain. I mean, we're looking for Noah. And there's nothing.
Nothing. It's like another one-horse town.
Oh, my God.
All right, Al.
All right, I got 3 great questions from the chat room. Let me start there. Heart4803 wants to know, what was it like for you, and what was the reaction when Michael Jordan started to do the routine with the slapping the chalk in front of you?
Oh, the rosin, the dust up, they called it. So that started before I got there. I got a great finish to this. It started before I got there with Johnny and Jimmy Durham. Michael, after every game, if we weren't going somewhere, Michael would go home, eat something, and watch the game. And he said what he was looking for was a different perspective than what he had. And so every once in a while, he'd let me know, hey, I watched this and saw this, whatever. So he did it one game on accident, and Johnny and JD were, waving the stuff away and coughing. Well, now it got to be a bit because he and Johnny were as thick as they could be. So Johnny every once in a while would bring a little, an umbrella or a mask or whatever it was. And so one game, Johnny brings these little tiny, and these were brand new at the time, little tiny handheld fans, like you'd take out to a golf course or something like that, watching a golf tournament.
Sure.
So Johnny and I, this is how goofy we were. We actually practiced a couple times putting our hands together with the fans. So here's what happens. We do this. Michael does the dust up. We put our hands together, and we get the fans going. And so we push it back at him. He thought it was really funny until it gets in his eye, right?
Yep.
So now he walks back to Chip Schaefer. He's got this stuff in his eye, and Phil Jackson looks at me like, you rotten, So he gets it out. And the next day we were going somewhere, and Johnny Kerr sits down, and Michael sits down, and Johnny said, I figured I was going to read in the Tribune this morning, former Chicago Bulls announcer Johnny Kerr and Tom Dore, ... that we'd been fired that night. So we're dying laughing. So then Phil comes over, and he doesn't say a word to Johnny. He looks at me, and he says, oh, yeah, tell me, how did this start, and all the gags and all that stuff. And I know we're going somewhere. I know this is leading somewhere. So Michael is looking at me, and, it's like your older brother when you're a little kid, and the older brother knows you're in trouble. You don't know it yet, and he's dying laughing. He is just, but he's sitting behind Phil, so Phil can't see him. And so Phil finally says, hey, the gags, and it's not Johnny. He doesn't say a word to Johnny. Dore, the gags are over. You got it? Is there any question about this? Any doubt in your mind? No. Okay, Phil, I got it. So Phil walks away, and Michael starts shaking his finger. You got in trouble. You got in trouble. Just like that older brother. And it was so, oh, God, it was like that all the time. You're always looking for something to do. And if it's on you, hey, it's still funny. Let it laugh. Let it go.
Absolutely. Ron's got a really good follow-up to that question. And he says, do you think that players today have that same kind of relationship with announcers and the media that they had back when you were broadcasting?
I kind of doubt it. Maybe. There are some definitely that do, but not a lot, I wouldn't think. I could go to any practice. I could go to any meeting. I could go to most any meeting, most any film session. Phil Jackson made it real clear on my first day. The first thing I did was his television show. And so he made it real clear. You want to come to something, he said, if it's something you can't come to, I'll ask you. We were going to D.C., and Bill Bradley was going to show the team around all that stuff. And he came up to me, and he sat down, and he said, hey, are you doing the Washington game? Here's what I want to do. Here's what we're doing. And it was, I'm a government guy anyway. I like that stuff, and I couldn't do it. And he said, too bad. Next time we go, we'll get it. Well, it didn't work out after that. Steve Kerr got me into the Oval Office. We went down to the Situation Room. We saw all kinds of things because of his brother. But Phil was just that good. And so I wonder if people have that unfettered access like I did, like a lot of guys did back then. There's more concern about stories getting out, that kind of thing, maybe than there was then.
Absolutely. Q from Cincy has a good one. He wants to know, what's your fondest memory of being associated or working with Michael Jordan?
The stuff we do, we went to a movie. We're in Salt Lake City. and it's Thanksgiving Day. And Mikey knows this story. He's laughing already. He knows the story. So it's Thanksgiving Day, and we're all bored, wildly bored. There's football on TV, but it's Detroit and Dallas or whatever. We didn't care. And so I start talking to Johnny, and Michael's there with a security guy with Gus and Joe. And so we're like, what are we going to do? We can't just sit here. We're going to go out of our minds. And so Johnny says, well, maybe we'll go see a movie. I said, okay. So I went and found a newspaper. That's going to be my job, right? So I go find the newspaper, start paging through. Hey, there's movies. Casino just came out. Oh, this is perfect. We're going to have a blast. Well, now Michael gets interested. He comes over and sits down right across from us, and he says, you guys are going to see Casino? I said, yeah, I think so. But I don't know if there's a theater near us. I mean, you're in a strange town. You don't know. And so one of the guys that was serving the turkey and stuffing and all that stuff, I asked him, I said, can you tell me, are there any of these that are close, that are showing Casino? So he looks down, he says, oh, this one's only 2 blocks away. Perfect. Well, 2 blocks in Salt Lake City is like from here to Yellowstone Park. 2 blocks is really, really long. So, but of course, it became my fault. So I said, hey, it's 2 blocks away. It's playing at 4 o'clock or whatever. And Michael, you could tell he really wanted to go. Just like the fishing thing, he really wanted to go. And so he says, man, I can't go see a movie. I said, Mike, it's Thanksgiving Day. The Mormons will hate you tomorrow. Today they're doing Mormon stuff. And this is nothing against Mormons. This is all on Michael. I'm really trying to dig him. And so he looks at Gus and he looks at Joe and he's like, what do you guys think? And Joe's like, if we can go to a movie, let's go. Let's go do something. So we decide to go. 2 blocks is literally like 8 miles. It is so far. And so finally we get to the theater. I'm the first one up. And so I say, all right, how many people are going to see Casino? He said, there is no one here. There's me and there's a guy selling popcorn. That's it. Oh, hey, this is going to work. We go in, we sit down. We're the only ones that watch the movie. This is like you and your buddies when you're 12 years old.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. We're yelling at the theater, don't give her all that money, with a lot of other we had a blast through the movie.
What a great
Michael
story.
told me it's the best time he'd ever had going to a movie.
That is
we laughed. We'd say stuff to each other, to the guys on the screen. Don't do, the whole bit. And so the movie ends, and he's sitting right behind me, and I feel this tap on my shoulder. Yeah, Dore, go out again. Dore, you go do this. Dore, go out and see how many thousands of people are out there. I said, Mike, it's Thanksgiving Day. Mormons will hate you tomorrow. So we get up. I get up and walk outside. This is going to be my job. There's no 2 ways about it. There had to be Mikey, Aldo. There had to be 4,500, 5,000 people.
Oh, yeah, the word got out.
Oh, you can see the guy selling. You can see those 2 guys picking up the phone, dialing the phone. Hey, guess who's here? Call everybody you know. Hey, guess who's here? Come on. You can see them. So now here's the problem. I don't care that there's all those people that they're going to give him grief. I care that I have to go in and admit that I was wrong.
Yeah.
That all these people are out there. So I walk in and I don't say much. He's like, what are there, 5,000, 10,000, something like that? Just tell me. You can tell me. It's okay. And so I say, well, yeah, there's probably 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, something like that. He just starts dying laughing and killing me, absolutely killing me. So we figure we got a great plan. This is how smart we were. We got this great plan. We're going to be like we're taking Muhammad Ali out from the dressing room, with the big square around him of guys that nobody can get near him. We're going to take him to the ring. Here's the only problem. Johnny wanted to be at the front of the line, the front of this thing. And Johnny's 75 years old, whatever he was at the time.
Right.
So we can't get anywhere because Johnny can't do it. So Michael finally breaks free, runs back to the hotel. we get back to the hotel, and he's like, I told you there was going to be, and on and on and on at me. Of course, it's all at me. And I finally said, we're sitting down in the lobby, and we're laughing like hell. And I said, Michael, have you ever had more fun at a movie? He said, not since I was 12 years old, and I'd go with my buddies. He said,
well,
I do that 100 times.
Great story. Great story.
Great stories, my friend. And I'll tell you what, to just hang out with the guy, I got the opportunity to do it, but he was like Elvis Presley or the Beatles or those guys. It was all about Michael, the charisma and everything else. And Tommy, you were there for it all, my friend.
Mikey, it was a blast to be there. It was a great time to come back to my hometown for so many years and be close to my mom and my family and friends. And, you know what it's like, Mikey.
Oh, yeah.
It's a dream come true. An absolute dream come true.
Well, I'll tell you what, it was great that you came on with us today, my friend. Aldo and I appreciated the barroom.
Very
People
much.
loved you. Yeah. You told some great, great stories, buddy. Take care of yourself. What are you doing now? You're just a retired gentleman?
I've got a renewable. I moved to Austin. I bought into a biodiesel plant. I eventually bought the whole biodiesel plant and then sold it. And now we're into the next generation of biodiesel. I've got these two geniuses. Truly, honestly, Mikey, although I mean this with all sincerity, when they start to talk about the process and what we need to do, I am Penny from the Big Bang Theory. I should be working at the Cheesecake Factory. I have no idea what they're talking about. I'm checking Facebook. I'm looking at my emails. I'm checking Twitter. I have the two, literally, in the United States, these are the two smartest guys on this stuff in the USA, and wonderful guys. And so hopefully we'll start building our plant here in the next 6-9 months, something
Excellent.
like that, and be producing fuel in a couple of years.
Excellent. Good luck with that. Great.
Yeah, good luck
thanks.
with that, T-Bone.
Thanks, guys.
And you know what? We appreciate you coming on. Everybody in Chicago still loves you, buddy, okay?
All right, brother. Same here. You guys take care.
Thank you very much,
All
Tom.
right,
Bye-bye.
Tommy Dore here on Bears Barroom. He had some stories, huh?
Oh, my gosh. And he's a great storyteller as well. And that was a blast, I am telling you.
Yeah. Yeah, he had some stories that you don't hear. That's what I was talking about when they did this thing. Get these guys on to hear some of those stories. We went to the movie theater. Michael Jordan went to see Casino in Utah,
That's wild.
Right? I don't even know if there's an Italian in Utah, to be honest with you. Except the movie, except the guys that made the movie. That's all. How are you, my friend?
I am doing great. We're living under really difficult times, and people tune into the bar room for a little escapism from all of the stuff that's going on. But sometimes we have to talk about that stuff. And last night on the Shy Fans in the Stands show, the guys there had on Lady Bear, who is in the chat room now, and she did a great job of sharing, perspectives as an African American and still what's been going on in the country and so forth. And it's really, really good for all of us to talk civilly with one another about our opinions on what's going on and try to get through this and hopefully come out better.
Yeah, you know what? It's been a bad scene for about a week, and you just hope everybody's safe. You want peaceful protesting. I mean, I'm one of the few people, I don't know how many people that was actually involved even when in Senn High School. All the high schools had anti-war, protests. I was in those, and then after I dropped out, I ended up almost going to Vietnam. Yeah. So I was on both ends of that spectrum, and then, you just see everybody, I was worried when they put the bridges up here in Chicago, because then they would start funneling into the neighborhoods. Then I was hearing where these protesters, which thank God they changed their mind, were thinking of going in to certain neighborhoods and suburbs. And Edison Park is like a fortress filled with cops. And, you were hoping the protesters, if they were going to go in those areas or in the suburbs, weren't going to get, out unruly, because there would have been some major types of situation. But, I'm hoping cooler heads can prevail. It's a bad scene right now. The whole situation's bad. And hopefully people will learn from it. But, man, the businesses, we need to get the businesses back together. in my opinion, I thank God I'm not doing it no more.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I'd be 30 years younger. But if I had my three hot dog stands during the COVID, and then like they got damaged during rioting.
Oh my goodness!
Because we were not there or something like that.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine what a lot of people are going through. But you know what? We'll see what happens. And this is an escape. It really is. But you're right. We got to talk about it. I saw where everybody did a good job with the bar room last night.
Yeah.
And you got to get all sides. Yep. If you don't get all sides, then it's not worth it. It really isn't worth it. And you got to learn. Mm-hmm. You got to learn. So I just hope everybody stays safe. That's all I care about.
Absolutely. Well, and earlier this morning, Vic Fangio was trending on Twitter because he had a meeting with the media, and he said something that a lot of people took exception to, and which is that there wasn't much racism in the NFL. Let me play that quote for you, and then then we'll get some of the reaction that's going on against what he said, and then get your thoughts.
I think our problems in the NFL along those lines are minimal. We're a league of meritocracy. You earn what you get what you earn. I don't see racism at all in the NFL. I don't see discrimination in the NFL. You know, we live in a great atmosphere. Like I alluded to earlier, we're lucky. We all live together, joined as one for one common goal. And we all intermingle and mix tremendously. You know, if society reflected an NFL team, we'd all be great.
So reaction was quick on social media. People like Seattle Seahawks running back Chris Carson took exception, saying, that it was a joke what he just said. And on ESPN's Golick and Wingo, Tony Dungy said to say there's no racism and no problem, I think really is not recognizing the situation. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think there's racism on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that, there's racism on both sides. You can't just, racism isn't on one street. Whether it's on Black Street, White Street, Yellow Street, Brown Street, everybody of color, is not immune to something that horrid, Here's what I think he meant, in my opinion, Els. Mm-hmm. I went to Sen. I played, in Frost-Off football in 67, 68, and those were the two worst years in Chicago's history and in this country's history. Mm-hmm. Yet, on our team, on our offensive team, there were five black guys and 6 white kids, and we were all buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And they're having these walkouts in all the public schools that you remember,
right?
Or you were younger than I was. You were in grammar school, but I was in high school when the King stuff and Robert Kennedy, everybody.
Sure,
it was bad.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine what would have happened if there had been social media 50 years ago. and then there was, fighting, racial fighting and stuff. And what was weird is we knew the black dudes knew us. We were all buddies. Joe Little was a friend of mine, bunch of guys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like you're pressured into being on those sides. But because of football and because it's a team sport, there is, like the old adage, it sounds corny, the only color is the color of the jersey. You know what I mean?
Right. I
think that's what he meant. But of course there's racism. There's racism everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not good. I remember I had Hug a Black Day because I told Jiggets on the score, I go, you know what? They're screwing our black listeners. He goes, what do you mean? I go, everybody's listening to us, not just white, but black. And we don't do any remotes. This is how this all happened. We don't do any remotes from the South Side. And at the time, we only had, and we had a combination of salespeople from XRT and the Score. We only had, at that time, one black person working. And there was like 15, 16 salespeople. Everybody was making money. So I had the idea to have Hug a Black Day. Well, you know who got mad about it? Everybody. The mainstream media got mad about it, the white mainstream media. Jesse Jackson got mad about it. Willie Barrow, because they didn't want that.
Mm-hmm.
That ruins it. Wait, the white guys hugging black people? So they used this I was patronizing the black people. I go, no, I wasn't. I'm trying to call attention to them. They're as important to me as any other listener. And as important to the station. And that's when Jesse started to understand we became friends.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how politically things could be misconstrued. Even back then there was fake news. They start calling me the worst names. BB and I are just sitting there going, you got to be kidding me. I go, you got to be kidding me. But that's how things are. I can't imagine what would have happened, like I just said, if there had been Twitter. So I think Fangio is an old school guy, a football coach, who doesn't understand. He only understands one thing. We're all the same color when we're playing. But he shouldn't be, I don't think, he's got to understand there's racism everywhere. I mean, they just talked about the Rooney Rule's got to get better,
Right.
And there's been, and there's all sorts of other nonsense going on. So racism's never going away, ever, because, but I will say this country tackles it as best as they can compared to other countries. And I know it sounds crazy the way it is now, but at least over this country's history, there have been people trying to make strides to make it better, and I think at the times it has. Right now, it doesn't look very good.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a hugely debatable topic there in terms of the history of this country and the fact that African Americans have been under slavery for 200 plus years, 100 years of Jim Crow, and then finally civil rights legislation happens in the 1960s, but people
Which was really late.
Which was really late, and also the president at the time, Lyndon Johnson, had to go on national TV and basically plead with Americans to respect the law because he knew it was not a popular decision with white America. But Harp 4803 rightly points out that you had a column in the Chicago Defender, the African American newspaper that was founded in the I think it was founded in 1908, and you used to write a column for the Defender.
Well, and this was my point. This was my point. The white media hates me. They hated me. The electronic media hated me. Whatever color. The mainstream media, because me with a bunch of other goofs were changing the game. And because I told the truth as I saw it. And I didn't play PC. Okay? So I go home one day and I go, B, you believe these people are calling me a racist? First of all, I work with Dan Jiggets. We're buddies. You can't be buddies with a black man if you're a racist. That's my look. I'm sorry. If you're going to use the term racist in the truest form, but they throw those words out. And Jiggs used to I go, Jiggs, I got this. Don't worry about it. Blah, blah, blah. And then I'm friends with Jay Hood, Jason Goff. You do the best you can to try to get people involved. But then I said to B, they're not going to tell that story. You know what? I see in the paper that it says Chicago Defender wants to go more cross-section. But they still want to have mostly black writers. And I found out who the publisher was and who the editors were. And I met them on Rush Street. These two guys, Robert Picayune and the other guy's name was Booth, I believe. I forget. BB would know. And I met them. And they said, well, you know what, man? You got this reputation, blah, blah, blah. You're a shock sports jock. I go, I don't even know what that means, man. All I am is a Chicago guy who knows all about the Chicago Defender. I know the history. I could teach. I said, I'll teach an African-American class. I know the history of African-Americans. I try to learn as much as I can. I'm in love with the culture. I told them, I don't care. Entertainment? Are you kidding me? We talked all night. And they said, here's what you need to do. Go up here in front of the board. So I go down and take a cab to 26 in Michigan. And was it state or Michigan? I forget, Michigan. And I walk in, and they go, they're waiting for you. And I walk in, there's 12 black people sitting in a circle, on a big table. and I sat there and took questions for 3 hours and got hired. And I know 80% of the media wouldn't pass, but I did. Okay? And the one thing they were suspicious, Alex. What are you doing? I go, I'm trying to help. And I'd love to be a columnist for this paper. I'd love to be the first white columnist for this paper. And you know how many people in the mainstream media picked it up? Nobody.
Zero.
Nobody.
Huh? Not even Feeder, huh?
Yeah. Not really, no. I think he might have put a little blurb in, but I'm sorry. And you know what? I had a good time for about the year that I was there. They were good people. Had a good time. And when I walked in that building, I knew I was walking into history. So it meant a lot. It's the oldest black newspaper ever. Negro. It was called the oldest black Negro newspaper ever. I worked there.
Yeah, it was.
And nobody said nothing about that.
Yeah, a lot of things get forgotten, right? When you look at it from a certain perspective.
Well, you know what? I just think that there's got to be at least. I think you got to have some dialogue, man. You know?
Yes.
I mean, everywhere. I mean, I've dealt with people my whole life. You got to have some dialogue. But you know what? I think the combination of the COVID and then this situation with Mr. Floyd happens, which was a terrible situation, but everybody was on board. It was terrible. And then this stuff has happened for the last 6-7 days. So hopefully things will get better. They better, because, you know, people got to start getting out. People got to start working. People got to start earning a living. And people got to, you know, start getting their businesses back together.
Well, it's hopefully this time there's going to be some action by the people who can enact action, and so that we'll see some different laws and the enforcement of those laws.
Yeah, you know, Alex, me and you, we've talked a long time. We don't always agree politically. We've always respected each other's opinion. That's just the thing I just want to see. The way you and I are talking, the way you and I are discussing, is the way to figure things out. And I remember I was in an Army barracks that had 50 guys in it. Half were black, half were white. And I know there were some white guys that didn't like the black guys, and I know there were some black guys that didn't like the white guys. I wasn't one of them. I mean, I you know what? But as a unit, and this is where this guy Vic Fazio probably meant as a football team. But once those people leave the training facility, they're not football players. And, you know, they're just people trying to walk down the street. And, you know, things happen in this country. Nothing's perfect, man. Nothing's perfect. And there's rogue cops. There's rogue protesters. There's rogues in corporate America. Rogues everywhere. And, you know, that's the way it's always going to be, and you just got to work through it. But this thing was the tipping point, and I think that hopefully people will start to listen and people will get more involved.
That's exactly correct. People need to listen more, and people need to get involved more. That's a great way to close that segment. And I want to close the show by asking you about the Odds Couple, which is on Fridays at 7 p.m. on ESPN. You and Carmen DeFalco. What are you guys talking about, given that there's no games to bet on yet?
Because there's going to be games to bet on. We talked about hockey last week. Hawthorne's opening. We're going to have Jimmy Miller on, Els.
Nice.
We got, you know, our guy from Prop Swap that joins us, because there's going to be tickets. We discussed about the Chicago Blackhawks. If you bet the Blackhawks to make the playoffs, you were dead.
Yeah, right.
But you're not dead now.
That's
now
right.
they got to get Caesar's World is trying to get some explanation. They were pissed. Well, wait a minute, what is it? And they go, well, we don't know if it's an in-game tournament to get to the Final Four teams. So they're trying to change things where I believe, hey, that's the way it goes. You got to pay out those tickets. So if you have a Blackhawk ticket, hang on to them, because that's really been something. Football's going to be starting. I put on Twitter today, 100 days from football. By the way, folks, remember, follow Aldo Gandia, follow Bears Barroom, follow North to North. We have some great people. Follow Shy Fans in the Stands, Johnny Buffone. I know I'm going to forget somebody. 100 Proof. Don't help me yet, Aldo. Don't help me yet. I know. Oh, Fat Mike.
Fat Mike.
Fat Mike's taking over. Fat Mike's like, you know what? Fat Mike's coming over. He's in. He's Fat Mike.
Let me get your opinion on the controversy regarding Fat Mike. His favorite quarterback of all time is Brett Favre, and he posted a picture of him wearing his Brett Favre jersey. What say you, Mike North? Is that sacrilege? Is that treason? Or do you respect the guy for wearing the jersey of his favorite player?
If I'm 12 years old, I'm pissed at him. 14, 15, 16, 17. I know there's grown-ass adults that get mad about stuff like that. Look. All I know about Fat Mike is he does a good job promoting Bears Barroom, like all our guys do. Braggs, the whole crew. I saw the Bears swag shop. Bear Room swag is in full tilt.
That's right.
I think one of the guys tweeted and said, "Hey, Mike, you're even on there." I was saying thanks. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I go, I'm blessed to be on. I forget who it was, and then I looked for my name. And then I couldn't find you. I go, where are you?
Yeah,
I think you're in the armpit of the T-shirt.
Where am I? That's a good question.
Think if you tuck the shirt in, my Mike North advantage goes off. No, all kidding aside, the T-shirts are great. The swag room is great. All the guys are great. What shows did I miss, by the way?
Oh, gosh, we have so many shows, it's impossible for me to
keep. It's a Bear. What do I say on Twitter?
Yeah,
if you're not on Bears Barroom, you can't be a Bear fan. I understand Fat Mike is a Bear fan. But when his favorite quarterback played the Bears, did he want his favorite quarterback, of course, to lose?
Yes.
I would guess yes, right?
Yes, that is correct.
You know that for a fact?
Well, he said so on his show Monday. So
okay. I like him.
I love Fat Mike. I love Fat Mike, but I'll tell you what, a lot of our fans are.
How about Barrelissimo?
Oh, Barrelissimo! He's the best.
Not forget about Barrelissimo.
You better not. He'll get angry at me again.
Fat Mike is crazy. I go into a hole when he gets hot.
Fat Mike is being affectionately referred to now as Pack Mike.
You know what? I can see where people might say that, though. It's Bears Barroom. I understand, but we welcome everybody.
Absolutely.
From the Lions, because the Lions fans, the Viking fans, of the Packers, the AFC fans. I mean, come on.
Absolutely.
Are you kidding?
That is some great stuff. All right,
yep,
Mike. I can't believe you got Tom Dore, and then you tell me right before we go on, I'm working on somebody really special for next week. I'll see you.
I'm going to try next week, and I'm trying hard. I mean, believe me when I tell you this, to give us a good guest every week, but sometimes we're going to hit the wall sooner or later.
Oh.
We're going to hit the wall, and then guess what? You know what? Our hour shows are good.
Oh.
I mean, Tommy, I would say this was our most talkative guest. He kept rolling.
Oh.
He could have gone for 2 hours.
Absolutely, he could have. Absolutely. We could have kept him on for 2 hours, and it would have been as entertaining in the second hour as it was in the first hour. Great stuff. Great interview, Mike North. Say goodbye to your fans. We'll post this in about 20 minutes. All righty.
We'll be posted in half hour.
Less than that.